My love, your presence brings me such joy.
And yours, my queen, lights my very soul.
Together we are unstoppable.
Alien men refused to marry her until a human asked for her hand. Sara stood in the sterile white laboratory of the Galactic Research Station, her gray crystalline hands carefully adjusting the DNA sequencer. Around her, scientists from 20 different species worked at their stations. The Thexari with their tentacles, the bird-like Aryans with their feathered wings, the insectoid Cricks with their compound eyes, all of them beautiful in their own way, according to galactic standards. But not Sara. She glanced at her reflection in the polished metal surface of the machine. Her skin was covered in small crystals, as all Valori had. But where her people's crystals should shine in brilliant colors, reds, blues, purples, greens, hers remained a dull, lifeless gray, like dirty glass, like failure. Doctor, Sara, a voice called behind her. She turned to see Dr. Miran, a Valori male with beautiful sapphire crystals that sparkled under the laboratory lights. He was her supervisor, and like everyone else from her homeworld, he rarely looked directly at her. Yes, Dr. Miran? The council requires your report on the cross-species communication project by tomorrow, he said, his crystals flickering with mild irritation. Please don't be late again. I won't be, sir. He walked away quickly, as if standing near her made him uncomfortable. Sara returned to her work. She was used to it. 32 years of being invisible, despite being one of the best xenobiologists on the station. The Valori believed that crystal color showed emotional depth. Bright colors meant passion, warmth, the ability to love. Gray meant emptiness. Her own mother had cried when Sara reached maturity, and her crystals never brightened. 17 males had rejected her courtship requests. 17 times she had been told she was too cold, too broken, too wrong. Last month, her family had sent a message. They had found someone willing to marry her, a distant politician who needed connections and didn't care about her defect. The wedding was arranged for 6 months from now. She had no choice in the matter. At least, that's what they said. Sara pushed the thoughts away and focused on her work. Science didn't care what color her crystals were. Hours passed. The station's artificial day cycle dimmed to evening. Most researchers had left for dinner. Sara remained, analyzing samples from a newly discovered species. Suddenly, the door slid open. Didn't know anyone was still here. Sara looked up. A human stood in the doorway. She recognized him, Dr. Marcus Chen, the new xenoanthropologist who had arrived 2 weeks ago. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Union, barely 20 years since first contact. Many species still didn't trust them. I'm just finishing, Sara said quietly. No, please continue, Marcus said, stepping inside. I'm actually looking for you, Doctor. Sara. I read your paper on emotional expression in non-verbal species. It was brilliant. No one called her work brilliant. Adequate, maybe? Acceptable. Thank you, she managed. Marcus approached her station, his dark eyes bright with interest. Humans were strange-looking creatures, soft skin without scales or crystals, hair on their heads, only 2 eyes, but they were expressive. His whole face seemed to move when he talked. I was hoping we could collaborate, Marcus continued. I'm studying how different species understand each other's emotions. Your research would be perfect for my project. You've identified patterns nobody else has seen. I could share my data, Sara said carefully. That would be amazing. How about we... Suddenly, red lights flashed throughout the laboratory. A harsh alarm blared. Warning, the station's computer announced. Containment breach in Biology Wing, Section 7. Toxic atmosphere spreading. All personnel evacuate immediately. Sara's crystals flickered, the first hint of color in years. A pale yellow of fear. Section 7 was 3 halls away. The gas would reach them in minutes. The emergency seals, Marcus shouted over the alarm. They're manual, Sara said, her mind racing. Someone has to trigger them from the central control panel. But that's in Section 7. Marcus ran to the door and looked down the corridor. Smoke was already visible in the distance. Can we trigger them remotely? No. The system is offline for upgrades. Kale Sara's hands trembled. Hundreds of people were in the nearby sections. If the gas spread, then we need to reach that panel, Marcus said. That's impossible. The gas is already... Nothing's impossible. Marcus grabbed 2 emergency respirators from the wall. Humans have a saying, where there's a will, there's a way. Come on. They ran through the smoke, respirators on. The gas burned her eyes even through the mask. Marcus pulled up the station map on his wrist device, finding alternate routes. Left here, he called. They crawled through a maintenance shaft, squeezed past a collapsed beam, and finally reached Section 7. The control panel was behind a wall of toxic green fog. I'll go, Kale Sara said. Valori can hold our breath longer than humans. Before Marcus could argue, she removed her respirator, held her breath, and ran into the fog. Her lungs burned, her vision blurred. She found the panel, fingers flying over the controls. The emergency seals activated with a heavy clang. She collapsed. Strong arms caught her. Marcus had followed her, carrying his respirator. He placed it over her face, giving her his air as he dragged them both back to safety. They lay on the clean corridor floor, gasping. Station security arrived, sealing the breach completely. You okay? Marcus asked between breaths. Kale Sara nodded, unable to speak. Her whole body shook. That was incredible, Marcus said, looking at her with something she had never seen before, admiration. You saved hundreds of lives. Later, after the medical checks and incident reports, Marcus found her in the cafeteria. Hey, he said, sitting down across from her. I meant what I said. About your work being brilliant. About you being incredible. He paused, then smiled. Also, I don't know if anyone's told you, but your crystals are beautiful. Like opals, like storm clouds with moonlight behind them. Very elegant. Kale Sara stared at him. Beautiful? Her crystals? Was he mocking her? But his expression was genuine. Humans couldn't control their faces like other species could. They showed every emotion, honestly. Would you like to work together on that research project? Marcus asked. I think we'd make a great team. For the first time in her life, Kale Sara felt a strange warmth in her chest. A tiny flicker of pale blue appeared on her left hand's crystals, then vanished. Yes, she whispered. I would like that. Marcus grinned. Excellent. Tomorrow, then, we'll change how the galaxy understands each other. As he left, Kale Sara looked at her hands. Had she imagined that flicker of color? Or was something changing? She didn't know yet. But for the first time in 32 years, she felt something other than emptiness. She felt hope. 3 months had passed since the containment breach. 3 months since Kale Sara had started working with Marcus Chen. 3 months since her gray world had begun showing colors she never knew existed. Marcus sat in his quarters, reviewing their latest research findings on his datapad. Charts and graphs filled the screen, showing patterns of emotional expression across 47 species. But his mind kept wandering to his research partner. Computer, display Valori cultural files, he said aloud. The screen changed, showing information about Kale Sara's species. Marcus had read these files 100 times now, trying to understand. The Valori judged everything by crystal color. Bright meant good. Dull meant bad. It was that simple to them. That's insane, Marcus muttered to himself. He thought about Earth, about human history. Once, humans had judged each other by skin color, by eye shape, by countless meaningless physical traits. It had taken centuries to move past that stupidity. And here was the Valori civilization, supposedly advanced, making the same mistake. A message alert blinked on his screen. Kale Sara had sent the final analysis for tomorrow's presentation. Marcus smiled. She was brilliant. She saw patterns in data that others missed, made connections across species that seemed impossible. Yesterday, she had discovered that the Crix insectoids and the aquatic delph species shared the same fear response, despite evolving on worlds 1,000 light-years apart. It was groundbreaking work. And her appearance? Marcus genuinely found her beautiful. Her gray crystals had a subtle quality that the brighter Valori lacked. They reminded him of pearls, or polished river stones, or winter frost on windows. When light hit them at certain angles, they seemed to hold entire galaxies inside. He had told her this once. She had looked at him like he was speaking an alien language. The door chimed. "Come in," Marcus called. Kalsara entered, carrying the data chip. She moved gracefully, though she always seemed to try to make herself smaller, less visible. "I have the backup files for tomorrow," she said softly. "Great coffee?" Marcus gestured to the pot brewing on his desk. Yes, thank you." Kalsara sat down carefully. Over the past months, she had become more comfortable around him, but she still seemed surprised whenever he treated her as an equal. Marcus poured 2 cups and handed her one. "I've been thinking about our presentation. We should emphasize the unity aspect, how all species share fundamental emotional responses, regardless of how they display them." "The council might not like that," Kalsara said, her crystals flickering with a pale yellow tint. Fear. Marcus had learned to read her subtle color changes. They were rare, but they appeared more often now. It challenges their beliefs about emotional superiority. Sometimes beliefs need to be challenged. Kalsara looked down at her cup. A faint pink appeared on her fingertips, then vanished. Marcus had noticed these flickers happening more frequently lately. He didn't mention them, afraid she would shut down if he drew attention to the changes. "Marcus," she said quietly, "why did you want to work with me, truly?" "Because you're the best xenobiologist on this station," he replied without hesitation. "But I'm damaged. Everyone knows that. My own people won't even look at me properly." Marcus set down his cup and leaned forward. "Kalsara, look at me." She raised her eyes reluctantly. "There's nothing damaged about you," Marcus said seriously. "Your people have a cultural bias that's blinding them to reality. On Earth, we had a saying, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It means different people see beauty differently. Your gray crystals? I think they're stunning. More elegant than any bright colors I've seen on other Valori." "You're just being kind," she whispered. "I'm being honest. Humans don't lie well. Our faces give us away." He smiled gently. "Besides, even if I couldn't see you at all, I'd still want to work with you. Your mind is extraordinary. The way you think, the way you solve problems, the way you care about understanding others, that's what matters." Kalsara's crystals suddenly glowed with a soft blue light, brighter than Marcus had ever seen. She gasped and covered her hands. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, concerned. "Nothing. I should go. The presentation is early tomorrow." She stood quickly, nearly knocking over her coffee. "Kalsara, wait." But she was already hurrying out the door, her crystals flickering wildly with blues and golds. Marcus sat back, confused. Had he said something wrong? The next evening, Marcus and Kalsara presented their research to the Galactic Union Science Council. Representatives from dozens of species filled the grand auditorium. The presentation went perfectly. Their findings were praised by scientists from every corner of the galaxy. Afterward, there was a diplomatic reception. Marcus wore his formal Earth suit. Kalsara wore traditional Valori robes, simple and gray like her crystals. They stood together near the refreshment tables when 3 Valori males approached. Their crystals blazed with reds and purples, marking them as high-ranking officials. "Dr. Kalsara," the tallest one said, barely glancing at her, "your work is adequate for one of your condition." "Her work is exceptional," Marcus corrected firmly, stepping forward. The council just gave it the highest rating of the conference. The Valori male finally looked at Marcus, his crystals flickering with orange contempt. "Human, you don't understand our ways. She is unmarriageable, defective. It's generous that we even acknowledge her contributions." "Defective?" Marcus's voice was cold now. Other guests nearby stopped talking, sensing confrontation. "She has discovered more about interspecies understanding than anyone in this room. She saved hundreds of lives 3 months ago. She's brilliant, kind, and brave. If your people can't see that, the defect is yours, not hers." The auditorium went silent. No one spoke to Valori officials this way, especially not humans. The tall Valori's crystals blazed angry red. "You dare." "I dare to tell the truth," Marcus interrupted. "In Valori culture, according to your own customs, Truth speaking in defense of honor is the highest form of respect. Or did I misread your protocols? He hadn't. Marcus had studied Valori customs extensively. The official's crystals flickered with confusion, then reluctant purple, forced respect. You are surprisingly educated human, the Valori finally said. He turned stiffly and walked away, his companions following. The crowd slowly resumed talking, but many eyes now looked at Kyle Sara differently. Curious, interested. Marcus turned to his friend. You okay? Kyle Sara stared at him, her crystals glowing with colors he had never seen before. Brilliant blues, soft golds, shimmering greens. They pulsed like a heartbeat. Why did you do that? She whispered. 'Cause someone needed to, Marcus said simply. Because you're my friend. Because everything I said was true. Kale Sara's crystals grew brighter, almost blinding now. Marcus, I need to tell you something. What is it? She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. My crystals. They're changing. They've been changing since I met you. I thought it was temporary, but now they won't stop. When I'm near you, when I think about you, She stopped abruptly, her expression panicked. They what? Marcus asked gently. They show what I'm feeling, she whispered. Real feelings. For the first time in my life, they work. But that means Marcus's heart was pounding now. That means what? Kale Sara looked up at him, her eyes wide, her crystals blazing with color. That means everything my people said about me was wrong, she said. I'm not emotionally dead. I was just waiting for someone who could see me, really see me. Marcus took a careful step closer. Call Sara. I need to ask you something important. What? Do you believe in cross-species relationships? Is that possible in your culture? Her crystals flashed brilliant gold, hope, Marcus had learned, then deep blue, which he couldn't quite read yet. I don't know, she admitted. No Valori has ever. But, Marcus, you don't have to answer now, Marcus said quickly, seeing her distress. Just think about it, because I care about you. A lot, more than as just a research partner. Kyelsera's crystals exploded with every color imaginable, swirling and pulsing. She looked terrified and amazed at the same time. I have to go, she said suddenly. I'm sorry. I need to think. She turned and fled the reception hall, leaving Marcus standing alone, heart racing, hoping he hadn't just ruined everything. Kale Sara locked herself in her quarters for 2 days. Her crystals wouldn't stop changing colors. Blue when she thought about Marcus's kind words. Gold when she remembered his smile. Deep purple when she imagined never seeing him again. Green, red, pink. Colors she had only seen on other Valori, never on herself. She sat on her floor, surrounded by medical journals and scientific papers, searching desperately for answers. Computer, display all research on Valori crystal color deficiency, she commanded. Hours of reading led to one shocking conclusion. There was no physical defect. Her crystals had always been capable of color. The grayness came from emotional suppression. Years of rejection, loneliness, and pain had shut down her emotional responses. Her body had protected her by turning everything off. Until Marcus. A message alert interrupted her research. Her mother's face appeared on the screen, crystals blazing, disapproving orange. Kyle Sara, we received word about your behavior at the diplomatic reception. The human defended you? This is humiliating. Your wedding to Chancellor Vecnor is in 3 months. You will return home next week to begin preparations. This is not a request. The message ended. Kale Sara's crystals turned dark gray again. Despair. An arranged marriage to a man who saw her as a political tool. A life of pretending to be invisible. Never seeing Marcus again. No. Something inside her rebelled. For 30 years, she had accepted what others told her. But Marcus had shown her a different truth. She wasn't broken. She was worthy. She deserved to choose her own path. But could she really walk away from everything she knew? Marcus spent those 2 days researching Valori marriage customs. His quarters were filled with holographic displays showing ancient texts, legal documents, and cultural protocols. There has to be something, he muttered, scrolling through another file. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, his human colleague, sat across from him, eating noodles. You know this is crazy, right? You've known her for 3 months. It's not about time, Marcus said, not looking up. It's about connection. Elena, when I'm with her, everything makes sense. She understands how I think. We finish each other's sentences when we're working. And the way she sees the universe, it's beautiful. She's an alien, Marcus, a different species. So, humans married across cultures, religions, and continents for thousands of years. This is just the next step. You really love her, don't you? Marcus stopped scrolling. Yeah, I really do. Then you better find something in those files, because her family isn't going to let her go easily. Marcus returned to his research with renewed determination. Hours later, he found it, buried in a document about ancient Valori traditions. Soul bond marriage, he read aloud. A union based on perfect emotional understanding, rather than genetic compatibility or social status. The male must demonstrate complete knowledge of the female's true nature before her family council. If proven, the female has the right to choose, regardless of prior arrangements. Elena leaned forward. When was the last time someone used that law? 300 years ago. Marcus grinned. But it's still legally valid. You're going to challenge a Valori family council? They'll destroy you. But I have to try. 1 week later, Marcus stood in a ceremonial hall on the Valori homeworld. The architecture was stunning. Walls made of crystal that caught and reflected light in rainbow patterns. But the faces of the council members were cold. Calcera's family sat in a semicircle. Her mother, father, 3 brothers, and 2 aunts, all with brilliantly colored crystals, all looking at Marcus like he was an insect. This is unprecedented, Calcera's mother, matriarch Sailwyn, said sharply. A human invoking the soul bond right? Ridiculous. The law doesn't specify species requirements, Marcus replied calmly, standing in the center of the hall. He wore formal Valori guest robes that Dr. Rodriguez had helped him obtain. Only that the male must demonstrate perfect understanding of the female's true nature. You've known my daughter for mere months, Sailwyn said. You cannot possibly understand her. With respect, matriarch, I understand her better than anyone in this room ever has. Calcera's father, a stern male named Morcon, stood up. Prove it then, human. Tell us about Calcera. But know this, if you fail, you will be barred from ever contacting her again. Marcus took a deep breath. This was it. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Calcera is a xenobiologist, he began, but that's not who she is. Who she is someone who sees connections where others see differences. She studies how species communicate because she spent her whole life being misunderstood. He walked slowly as he spoke, making eye contact with each council member. She prefers working late at night because the laboratories are quieter and she feels less watched. She drinks her morning beverage at exactly 73 degrees because anything hotter burns her tongue and anything cooler doesn't wake her up properly. She touches her left crystal when she's nervous. I've watched her do it 1,000 times. Calcera's youngest brother looks surprised. Even he hadn't noticed that habit. She's brilliant with data, but struggles with casual conversation because she's afraid of saying something wrong. Every day, she arrives at the lab 15 minutes early and organizes her workspace in the same pattern. Microscope on the left, data pads in the center, samples on the right. It gives her a sense of control in a life where she's had very little. Marcus's voice grew stronger, more passionate. She pretends to like the Valori traditional music her mother sends her, but she actually prefers the mathematical precision of Dexari harmonic compositions. She saves every message of praise she's ever received, all 17 of them, in a hidden folder because she's been starved for recognition her entire life. Sailwyn's crystals flickered uncertainly now. She has nightmares about the day when she was 10 years old and her crystals didn't change color during the maturity ceremony. She still remembers the look on her mother's face, disappointment that she's carried for 20 years. She thinks she's broken, but she's not. she never was. Marcus stopped in the center of the hall, his voice soft but clear. Aes Sedai is kind, brave, and incredibly strong. She survived decades of rejection and remained gentle. She saved hundreds of lives without hesitation. She sees beauty in things others overlook, in data patterns, in the way different species solve problems, in the small kindnesses people show each other. He looked directly at the matriarch. And her crystals, her gray crystals that you all see as a defect, they're not broken. They're a mirror. They reflect how she's been treated. Give her coldness, and she turns gray. Give her warmth, and she blooms. I've seen it. I've seen her crystals shine with colors you've never witnessed. Because I gave her something you never did. Acceptance. Several council members' crystals had shifted to pale blue uncertainty, perhaps even guilt. The question isn't whether I understand your daughter, Marcus said quietly. The question is whether any of you ever tried to. Before anyone could respond, the doors to the hall opened. Kael Sara entered, wearing traditional Valori ceremonial robes. Her crystals blazed with every color imaginable, shifting and swirling like the aurora borealis. Everyone stared. They had never seen her display such vibrant colors. Marcus spoke the truth, Kael Sara said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Every single word. He knows me better than my own family does. And she took a shaky breath. I choose him. Paulwyn stood abruptly. You would abandon your people, your culture, for a human? I would choose someone who sees me, Kael Sara replied firmly. Someone who values me. Someone who loves me for who I am, not despite it. She crossed the hall and stood beside Marcus. Her crystals pulsed with brilliant gold, pure joy. By the law of soul-bond marriage, Marcus said formally, I ask permission to join with Kael Sara, not because I want to take her from you, but because I want to give her the life she deserves. The council members looked at each other. Finally, Morkan spoke. The law is clear. She has the right to choose. He paused, even if that choice breaks tradition. Paulwyn sat down slowly, her crystals dimming. If you do this, daughter, society will judge you. Other Valori will call you a traitor. Let them, Kael Sara said softly. I've spent my whole life being judged. At least now I'll be judged for choosing happiness. Marcus took her hand gently. Her crystals flared even brighter at his touch. Then it is decided, Morkan announced. The soul bond is recognized. May the ancestors forgive us. As they left the hall together, Kael Sara whispered, Thank you. For what? Marcus asked. For asking for my hand. For seeing me. For everything. Marcus smiled. That's what love does. It sees what others miss. Behind them, the council sat in shocked silence, wondering if perhaps they had been blind all along. The news spread across the Galactic Union like wildfire. A human and a Valori were getting married, the first official cross-species union in modern galactic history. Some species celebrated the historic moment, others were horrified. Marcus and Kael Sara sat in their shared quarters on the research station, reading messages on their data pads. Some were congratulations, many were hate messages. Species traitor, Kael Sara read aloud quietly. That's what they're calling me on the Valori homeworld networks. Humans aren't much better, Marcus said, showing her his screen. Why couldn't you find a human woman? This is unnatural. You're embarrassing Earth. Maybe we should wait. Let things calm down. No, Marcus took her hand. We've waited long enough. Both of us have spent too many years letting others decide our worth. It's time we decided for ourselves. A message alert chimed. Dr. Elena Rodriguez appeared on the screen, grinning. You two won't believe this, she said excitedly. 17 cross-species couples have come forward in the last 3 days. They've been hiding their relationships for years. You gave them courage to step into the light. Kael Sara's crystals flickered with surprised gold. 17? A Thexari and an Aryan, 2 Crix and a Delph, even a human and an insectoid Vextar. They're all saying the same thing. They were afraid before, but seeing you two changed everything. After Elena signed off, Marcus and Kael Sara looked at each other. "We're starting something bigger than us," Kale Sara whispered. "Then let's make it count," Marcus replied. They planned a hybrid ceremony, honoring both human and Valori traditions. The wedding would take place in the station's grand observation hall, with windows showing the stars beyond. Marcus worked with Elena to understand human wedding customs. Kala Sara studied ancient Valori bonding rituals. They wanted to create something beautiful that represented both cultures equally. "In human weddings, we exchange vows," Marcus explained. "Personal promises we write ourselves. Valori ceremonies use the crystal binding ritual," Kyle Sara said. "Two partners place their hands together, and their crystals must resonate in harmony. If they don't, the marriage is considered doomed." "We'll do both," Marcus decided. "Your crystal ritual and our vows. Show everyone that two different worlds can come together." The Galactic Union Council declared it an official diplomatic event. Representatives from dozens of species requested to attend. Some came to celebrate, others came to watch it fail. But not everyone wanted the wedding to succeed. 2 days before the ceremony, station security arrested 3 extremists, 1 Valori, 1 human, 1 Crix, who had been planning to disrupt the wedding. They were sent to detention facilities on their homeworlds. "There might be others," Station Commander Thresh Cal warned. The reptilian commander had personally volunteered to oversee security. "We're scanning everyone who enters the observation hall." "Thank you, Commander," Marcus said gratefully. The observation hall had been decorated with flowers from Earth and light crystals from the Valori homeworld. Chairs were arranged for 300 guests from 40 different species. Marcus stood at the altar in a black earth suit with a Valori ceremonial sash across his chest. His hands trembled slightly. "Nervous?" asked his best man, Dr. James Park, a fellow human researcher. "Terrified," Marcus admitted. "What if the crystal resonance doesn't work?" "Valori believe that's a sign from the universe." "Then you'll prove the universe wrong," James said simply. Music began, a blend of human orchestra and Valori harmonic tones. The guests stood. Kale Sara entered, walking beside her father. Morkan's expression was complicated, not quite approving, but no longer openly hostile. Her mother hadn't come, but 2 of her brothers were there, sitting in the back. Kesara wore a white dress, a human tradition, woven with crystal threads that caught the starlight. Her own crystals glowed with soft, swirling colors. She looked radiant. Marcus's breath caught. "Beautiful," he whispered as she reached him. The ceremony began. Ambassador Zexstar, a neutral Aryan official, presided over the proceedings. "We gathered today to witness something unprecedented," Zexstar announced in the universal trade language. "A union between 2 species, 2 worlds, 2 hearts that found each other across the stars." Marcus took both of Kale Sara's hands in his. "Kale Sara," he began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "3 months ago, I met someone the universe told was broken. But I saw someone extraordinary. Someone brilliant, kind, and brave. You taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about seeing someone perfectly." His eyes stayed locked on hers. "I promise to always see you, the real you. I promise to challenge anyone who tries to diminish your light. I promise to support your dreams, celebrate your achievements, and stand beside you through every challenge. Today, I don't just marry you. I choose you. Every day for the rest of my life, I choose you." Kyle Sara's crystals blazed brilliant gold. Tears ran down her face, human emotion she had learned from Marcus. "Marcus," she said softly, "you showed me I was never broken, just waiting. Waiting for someone who could see past surfaces to the person beneath. You gave me colors when I had only known gray. You gave me hope when I had accepted emptiness. I promise to be your partner in all things, to support your curiosity and your courage, to remind you that you are valued when the world tries to make you doubt, to build a life with you that honors both our worlds. I choose you, Marcus Chen, today and always." The guests were silent, many visibly moved. Now, Ambassador Zexstar said, "The crystal binding ritual. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for." The moment that would prove whether a human and Valori could truly bond. Kalsara and Marcus pressed their palms together. Her crystals touched his bare skin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Kalsara's crystals began to glow brighter. They pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. The Valori guests gasped. Crystal resonance was beginning. But suddenly, warning lights flashed. A high-pitched frequency filled the hall. Kalsara screamed and collapsed, her crystals flashing wildly with chaotic colors. "The resonance disruptor!" someone shouted. Security rushed forward, searching for the device. Marcus caught Kalsara as she fell, her whole body convulsing. Valori crystals were connected directly to their nervous system. The disruption was killing her. "Find it!" Commander Threshcall roared. Security scanners swept the room. Finally, they located the device, hidden under a guest chair. A maintenance worker grabbed it and threw it out the airlock into space, but the damage was done. Kalsara lay unconscious in Marcus's arms, her crystals flickering weakly, fading to gray. "No, no, no," Marcus whispered desperately. "Stay with me, please." Medical teams rushed forward with equipment. Dr. Vintar, the station's chief medical officer, scanned Kalsara with a Valori bioreader. "Her crystal network is shutting down," Vintar said grimly. "The disruption damaged her neural pathways. I'm sorry, but..." "No," Marcus held her tighter. "There has to be something. This couldn't be how it ended. Not now. Not after everything they'd overcome." "I love you," he whispered against her forehead. "Come back to me, please." His tears fell on her gray crystals. And then something impossible happened. Kalsara's crystals began to glow again, but not with her own colors. They pulsed with a warm golden light that seemed to come from within, spreading through her whole body. The medical instruments went wild with readings. "What is that?" Vintar gasped. "Her crystals," Dr. Elena said, staring at her scanner. "They're not just reflecting emotion anymore. They're healing. They're using emotional energy as a power source. Marcus's love is literally bringing her back." Kalsara's eyes opened slowly. "Marcus," she whispered. "I'm here," he said, crying openly now. "I'm right here." "Your love, I could feel it, even in the darkness. It guided me back." Her crystals settled into a steady, beautiful pattern of golds and blues and greens, healthier than they'd ever been. Dr. Vintar checked her readings again, shaking his head in amazement. "Impossible, but she's stable. More than stable. She's completely healed." The observation hall erupted in cheers. Guests from every species stood and applauded. Ambassador Zexstar approached, smiling. "I believe we can continue the ceremony now." She was weak, but steady. "By the power vested in me by the Galactic Union," Zexstar announced, "I pronounce you bonded partners. May your union inspire the galaxy." Marcus and Kalsara kissed as husband and wife. Her crystals exploded with every color imaginable, brighter than anyone had ever seen on a Valori. In the crowd, other cross-species couples held hands, tears in their eyes. 17 couples had come forward before. By the end of that day, 43 more would announce their relationships. Change had begun, and it started with 2 people who dared to love across boundaries. 5 years had passed since the wedding. Marcus stood in the Galactic Union Medical Research Center, watching through a window as doctors studied the data on holographic screens. The discovery that had started with Kalsara's healing had transformed medicine across 47 species. Emotional resonance healing, Dr. Jarob. Vintar explained to a group of medical students. "We've learned that deep emotional bonds can unlock dormant biological abilities in many species. The key factor? Genuine acceptance and love." One student, a young Valori female with bright purple crystals, raised her hand. "Is it true that humans are better at triggering this than other species?" "Not better," Vintar corrected gently. "Just different. Humans have an unusual capacity for cross-cultural empathy. They adapt quickly to other species' emotional expressions. This makes them excellent partners for unlocking hidden potentials." Marcus smiled and walked toward the research laboratories. So much had changed in 5 years. The Galactic Union had passed the Interspecies Union Protection Act 2 years ago. Cross-species marriages were now legal and protected. Over 3,000 couples had officially registered their relationships. The number grew every month. He found Kale Sara in her private laboratory, surrounded by data screens and biological samples. She had been promoted to chief xenobiologist of the entire station. Her crystals glowed with steady sapphire blue, the color of deep concentration. "Still working?" Marcus asked, kissing her cheek. "Just finishing the analysis for tomorrow's presentation," she said, smiling up at him. Her crystals shifted to warm gold, happiness. After 5 years, she had perfect control over her colors. She could express exactly what she felt. "The Nobel Prize Committee called again," Marcus mentioned casually. "They want to schedule the ceremony." Kale, Sara, and Marcus had won the Galactic Union's highest scientific honor, the Unity Prize, for their research on cross-species emotional communication. The Nobel Committee on Earth wanted to give them humanity's equivalent award. "I still can't believe it," Kale Sara said softly. "5 years ago, I was the unmarriageable one. Now I'm giving lectures on the importance of emotional diversity." "You were always brilliant," Marcus reminded her. "The world just needed to catch up." Kale Sara's mother appeared on the screen. Sail Wen's crystals were a subdued violet, regret mixed with hope. "Kale Sara, your father and I would like to visit next month," her mother said hesitantly. If that's acceptable to you both. We want to meet our grandchild properly." Kale Sara's hand moved unconsciously to her stomach. She was 4 months pregnant, carrying the first human Valori hybrid child. The medical community was fascinated. Her family had been distant until recently. "Tell her yes," Marcus said quietly. "Everyone deserves a second chance." Kale Sara nodded and sent a reply accepting the visit. The next day, they visited the Integration Center, a new facility that helped cross-species couples navigate cultural differences and legal complexities. Marcus and Kale Sara volunteered there twice a week. A young human woman named Sarah sat nervously across from them. Beside her was her partner, a Crix insectoid named Zikthar. "Everyone says our relationship won't work," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "My parents disowned me. His hive rejected him. We love each other. But is love enough?" Marcus and Kale Sara exchanged glances. They had heard this story dozens of times. "Love is the beginning, not the end," Kale Sara said gently. "It gives you the foundation. But you also need patience, communication, and willingness to learn." "We still argue about temperature settings in our quarters," Marcus added with a smile. "Valori like it warmer than humans. We compromised, and I still can't pronounce some human words correctly," Kale Sara continued. "Marcus has to repeat things sometimes. We laugh about it now. The point is," Marcus said seriously, "cross-species relationships take work. But so do all relationships. You two need to decide if you're willing to do that work together." The insectoid's antennae twitched, their equivalent of a smile. "We are," Sarah said firmly. "We just needed to know it's possible." "It's possible," Kale Sara assured them. "You're proof of that. You're here, fighting for your relationship. That's already more than many single-species couples do." As Sarah and Zikthar left, looking more hopeful, another couple entered. Then another. The waiting room was always full now. That evening, Marcus and Kale Sara attended a gathering at Ambassador Zextar's residence. It was an informal celebration. 5 years since the first cross-species wedding. The room was filled with mixed couples. A Thexary tentacle being held hands with an Aryan bird person. A human man laughed with his Delph aquatic wife. A Valori male with emerald crystals kissed his human husband. "Look at what you started," Elena said, appearing beside Marcus with a drink. She was now married to a Vexstar engineer. 5 years ago, this would have been impossible. "We didn't start it," Marcus said. "We just opened a door. Everyone else walked through it themselves." "Don't be modest," Kale Sara chided. "You challenged centuries of prejudice because you believed in us." A commotion near the entrance caught their attention. 3 young Valori had arrived, all with great crystals like Kale Sara once had. They looked around nervously. Kasera immediately walked over to them. "Welcome," she said warmly. "I'm Kale Sara. We know who you are," the tallest one said quietly. "You're famous. We came because we heard you were like us, gray, unmarriageable." "I was," Kale Sara confirmed. "But I learned something important. Gray doesn't mean broken. Sometimes it just means you're waiting for the right conditions to bloom." "Did it hurt?" another asked. "When your crystals started changing?" "No. It felt like waking up after a long sleep." Kale Sara smiled. "It still happens gradually. Some days my crystals are brighter than others, but that's okay. Emotions aren't meant to be constant and perfect. They're meant to be real." The three young Valori looked at each other, their crystals flickering with faint colors, hope beginning to emerge. 6 months later, Kale Sara gave birth to a daughter. They named her Nova, a word meaning new star in Latin and hope light in the Valori language. Nova was extraordinary. Her skin had the subtle crystalline quality of the Valori, but the crystals were smaller and softer than pure Valori crystals. They glowed gently, even at rest, a trait from Marcus's human warmth. When she felt emotions, the crystals brightened, but she could also express feelings through her very human facial expressions. She was the perfect blend of both worlds. The medical team studying her development made a remarkable discovery. Hybrid children had advantages neither parent species possessed alone. Nova would likely be more emotionally resilient than pure Valori and more empathetic than average humans. "She's the future," Dr. Vintar said, watching Nova sleep in her father's arms. "If cross-species children inherit the best traits of both parents, imagine what the next generation could achieve." Marcus looked down at his daughter's peaceful face. "She won't have to prove she's worthy like her mother did. She'll grow up in a galaxy that already knows every being has value." "Thanks to you two," Vintar said. On Nova's first birthday, the Valori government made a historic announcement. They were officially abolishing the color-based social hierarchy. All Valori, regardless of crystal brightness, would be treated equally under law. Kale Sara watched the announcement with tears streaming down her face. Marcus held her hand. "It's really changing," she whispered. "The whole galaxy is changing. Because people like you refuse to accept the old ways," Marcus said. "You showed them a better path." That evening, they stood in their quarters window, watching ships from dozens of species arrive at the station. Families, couples, individuals, all different, all unique, all finally free to love without fear. Nova babbled happily in Kale Sara's arms, her tiny crystals glowing with pure contentment. "Do you remember what you said when you first proposed?" Kale Sara asked Marcus. "You said you wanted to give me the life I deserved. I remember. You gave me so much more than that. You gave me myself, my colors, my voice, my courage. You gave me everything." Marcus wrapped his arms around his wife and daughter. "You gave me everything too. A family, a purpose, a love I never imagined possible." A message notification appeared on their screen. Another unmarriageable alien from a distant world had written to them. They had just met a human who saw them differently. They wanted advice. They wanted hope. Kale Sara smiled and began composing a response. The cycle continued, one couple at a time, one relationship at a time, one heart at a time. The galaxy was learning what Marcus and Kale Sara had discovered 5 years ago. Love sees what prejudice misses. Love builds bridges where others see walls. And sometimes, asking for someone's hand means offering the entire galaxy an open hand of acceptance. The stars shone outside their window, and somewhere among them, another human was meeting another unmarriageable alien. Another story was beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.